All right, welcome everyone to the Tuesday, sorry, I am really lost in time. To the Friday, October 24th, 2024, Martyr Budget and Finance Committee meeting. So I see that we have all our committee members present, so we will dispense with roll call. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting from September 26th?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. Been moved by Councilman Swarthout, seconded by Councilman Waldhauser. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, so I believe, Troy, are you going to be doing the monthly financial update? I know Nissa is having some computer problems, so she'll be back.
Yes, I will be giving you your update today and get my screen shared here. Okay, thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, members of the committee. Troy Niemeyer, Finance Director, and this is your monthly budget update for October 24th, 2025. I'll jump right in and start with some sales tax numbers. When we met last time, we did not have September sales tax in yet, as I recall, but it did come in shortly after, and it was a pretty good month. 979,000. If you look down at the blue highlighted column and then, or sorry, row, blue row and down the 2025 column, $979,000 collected in sales tax. That was just about a $1,200 decrease from 2024, but still a good, strong, solid number. And overall for the year, we're up nearly 120,000 year to date, which is 1.58%. So hanging in there and good news, another good strong month of sales tax there. We will see when we get to the budget actual portion here in a minute. We are a little behind on budget, but at least month over month is good. What I'm hearing from my colleagues when I speak to them is most cities are down in sales tax collection. So we're doing better than most. Public safety sales tax. This is also a sales tax, but wanted to update you on it. It's for September 2025, we collected just over $99,000 for that one, which is a big increase from the prior year. So that's good news, and that puts us at 818,000 year to date for that sales tax stream. If that trend continues of 90 to 100,000 a month, will be our budget for that for the year is 940,000, and that was based on Thurston County's numbers when they passed this levy. So we'll end up potentially closer to 1.1 million. So more good news on that front. B&O tax continues to be strong. September is not a big month for collections, so we had a huge percentage increase, but it was only a couple $1,000. But year to date, over 2.3 million collected, up almost 52,000 from the prior year, which is 2.25%. Councilmember Swarthout, question.
Yeah, I've noticed we've had some businesses closing, so I was just curious. We lost our Fluffy and Floyd. There's a pet business over there in Southgate, and then I saw that Heritage Distilling is closing their little centers as well. So I'm just kind of like, what's happening in Tumwater as far as some of our retail places, how that's gonna, anyway, just want to bring that up. So if anybody's talked to them, if anybody has any word about them, so.
I'm not aware of any. I did read that story as well about Heritage. I was sad to see that. I guess on the bright, and always hate to see someone close down, and I hope someone will move into that space. On the bright side, we do have some of those new businesses that are now open in the Kingswood area by Walmart and Home Depot. I see the Starbucks is now open. Of course, the Wendy's and the oil change place have been open for a little bit, but construction continuing there. So So hopefully that'll still be a net positive. But yeah, I do. Anytime a business leaves, it's sad, especially those small businesses.
Well, and that leaves these open businesses that just kind of give that appearance, you've got open spaces and it just, yeah, is not that we have the brewery, but then you have these office open, that too, that, yeah, empty buildings. So I'm just concerned about the look and, what can we do if there's anything that we can do. So, yeah.
Administrative parts.
Yes, thank you. So I have information from John Peters via Chuck Denny with regard to Heritage Brewing. Distilling, what the word is that distilling is especially hard hit with taxes, raw materials, production, product storage, business operations, and real estate. And so they are actually closing all of their tasting rooms across Washington and Oregon. Some of the other challenges for them are increased minimum wage. But they are keeping their tasting rooms open on tribal lands, and they plan to open 3 more in with tribes in Arizona, Coos Bay, and one other spot. John Peters also indicates that they're already in conversations with 2 other interested parties. So a variety of reasons why individual retailers are having challenges. Our goal would be to try and do everything we can from the city's perspective to try and keep people in place. And tracking, I think, is as important as anything. Just trying to keep ahead of and trying to understand what the challenges are that they're facing, so we can be responsive where we have the ability to be responsive.
All right. Thank you for that. Good news that there's some folks interested in that space. Okay. I put lodging tax in this one. We haven't shown this one specifically because we're usually focused on general fund, but I thought this would be interesting to take a look at since we recently went through the LTAC awards for 2026. Lodging tax is actually having a great year. It's not huge numbers, but for September, over 25,000 collected, which is a 21% increase over the prior year. Almost every month this year, as you can see, has had an increase, and so it's up almost $30,000 year to date for a 32% increase year over year. And that's I think I've got something wrong with that formula. Forget the 32%. But anyway, it's doing really good. And this is just half. With this doesn't, the other half is the same. I just did the tourism instead of the historic. But having good months, and I suspect that's because we've got some of those hotels that were shut down that are now back open. Okay, so general fund revenues, switching from the year-over-year data to budget to actual, and this is general fund. Property tax, as we've talked about many times now, we get that most of that in 2 months in April/May, and then probably November for the second half. So that the further we get away from the last big collection month, that percentage starts looking worse and worse. And just so you know, I used for that year-to-date percentage, I used September for this because we have not received any of these revenues for October yet. And so to move that to 83% makes it look worse than it is because that money is coming. But anyway, this will look a lot better next month when we meet and see that property tax kick in. But anyway, sales tax on the budget actual is down almost 5%. But as we discussed, year over year looks okay. B&O tax is above projected. Utility tax is good. Building permits, we've already collected more than we budgeted. Medic one, we still do have a lag time there. TMPD is looking great, and so is our grant reimbursements, which I accidentally put in there twice. We also have some sustainability grants that are running on track. Other stuff, we talked about public safety tax. The miscellaneous stuff, that's a lot of the state shared revenues, and those are looking pretty good. down just a little bit there. And then Parks and Rec is looking good as they should this time of year because they've gone through all their summer programs. On the expenditure side, general government, that includes kind of the back office city hall functions like legal, executive, HR, finance. So on the expenditure side, 61% spent. I carried that 75% through September down through the whole presentation. That's probably somewhere in between 75, and should be somewhere between 75 and 83% because obviously we've still got a whole nother week left in this month. So these numbers do include the October 10th payroll, which is a big part of our expenses. But police, about 10% under budget year to date. Fire's just about right on. Public Works, sustainability, both below, as is community development, and then Parks and Rec is also just about right on year to date. Overall for the general fund, only about 66.5% spent, compared to that 75 to 83%. So under budget on expenditures, makes me happy. Moving over to the business type funds, the water fund, and this is the same as we saw probably the last couple months, where the top part of this portion is everything included, including all capital projects, which of course those are some big numbers with the big capital projects, and these make those percentages look a lot low. But revenue's doing good. Expenditures are below budget. And then when we down below on that second half where we take out the capital projects to focus more on the operating portion of the fund, still, well, it's showing revenues pretty low, but that also kind of like some of the property tax and some others, not property tax, like some of the other revenues, they're always about a month and a half behind on the revenues there. And then expenditures are way below budget even without the capital. Similar story with sewer, although it doesn't have the huge amount of capital programmed in like water, but looking pretty good there on revenues and expenditures. And actually revenues a little ahead of schedule, expenditures a little ahead of schedule too, but with the revenue to offset it, nothing too concerning there. Similar with stormwater, focusing more on the bottom part there. Not as much revenue collected, but expenses are still very well below the budget. And then for this presentation, I called up my friend Tyler at the golf course to see how October was shaping up. And so this is the revenue on this slide is updated through yesterday. They've been having a good October, although I think the next few days are probably going to see a slowdown in golf with this atmospheric river pointed right at us. But anyway, again, top part including capital, and then the bottom part focusing on operations. The revenue, they're almost 99% of their budgeted revenue is collected as of yesterday for the year. So they'll be over 100% of their revenue projected revenue collected before the end of the year, and expenses are well below budget there as well. And that includes the expense side of this includes both the pro shop operations and the maintenance portion of golf. Okay, so we'll shift to talk about some of the risks that we're seeing in the economy. This slide here is recycled from the last presentation. So last time we were together to talk about this, we were talking about the risk of a government shutdown. Now we actually have a government shutdown that started October 1st. And so the risks are still a lot the same or similar. The federal funds don't affect us hugely directly at the city, but a lot of impacts to the overall local economy because of all of our state agencies, our large military population. A lot of our residents live and work in Tumwater. and a lot of state agency employees. And then, of course, the essential services. I think, I'm not 100% sure. I think a lot of these essential programs are still going, still being supported by the state, which is good. But of course, the longer this goes on, the harder that gets to do. So hopefully they'll find a resolution soon. So Monday starts week 5 of the government shutdown. That'll be the second longest in history. The longest was I was gonna say a few years ago. It's more than a few now, but that was in 2018, 2019, and it lasted 35 days. So hopefully this one does not go on that long. Some of the impacts on my end of things, federal regulators aren't working. We talked about that a little bit last time, and financial data is not being reported. So and we'll get a little bit more into that. But that creates more uncertainty for investors, for business owners. It could potentially lower consumer confidence, especially the longer it drags on. We do have the holiday shopping season coming up, which is brings in a lot of good sales tax and B&O revenue for us. So again, hopefully this ends soon. Part of this slide is also recycled from last time. The labor market's still kind of the same as far as we know. And I say as far as we know because there's no updated numbers for September as a result of the shutdown. So as far as we know, the unemployment rate for August was 4.3%. We don't have a number for September, so we're a little bit in the dark there. And some of these things, some economists are saying we're kind of at a tipping point right now where, if you start to kind of slide down the hill, so to speak, it's hard to stop that slide. So, hope for some reasonable people to prevail in Washington, D.C. And then I mentioned we'd talk about missing data. So due to the government shutdown and federal employees not working, these employees are the ones who study and report the economic data like the GDP and the unemployment rate. We did get an updated inflation rate late, and I read a story on NPR that said that I don't recall who, but someone at the federal government made the inflation people come back to work despite the shutdown because they wanted that data really bad. So we did end up getting inflation data for September. It did tick up another point from 2.9 in August to 3% in September. I did see another news story that said it was 3.3%, but I couldn't verify that. So as far as we know, it's 3.0. And then core actually ticked down a little bit. That's where you strip out the food and energy prices because of the volatility in those numbers. So core actually went down to 3.0. And I think that kind of shows that the food and energy prices are probably what was behind the tick up on the main inflation number. Excuse me, I knew that was going to happen. I apologize. I turned. I'm working remote today, and so I turned the volume of my phone on because I usually don't feel it vibrate, and I was afraid that was going to happen. So my apologies. Anyway, so that's inflation. We did get that, although a week or so late compared to normal. And that's about all I have for you today. So any questions? Let's see. Stop sharing my screen.
Any questions? Yeah, I think this data is very helpful and we're accustomed to seeing all of it. So, we're kind of in an uncertain time right now, so it's really hard to know exactly what's going to be happening in the next few weeks. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to project at this point, but I'm glad we're behind, expenses and that our budget still looks good, so.
Yeah, I'd say overall we're doing pretty good. I'd be happier if revenues were higher, but with expenses lower than projected, that helps make up for it. So, not super concerned at the moment. Just you know, like you said, Mayor, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, so we'll see what happens.
Any other questions or comments? Councilman Swenson?
And mine again is just like with the effect on local businesses, because we don't, as the city route, you don't always hear until it absolutely happens. But just how do you keep your ear to the ground? Does the EDC have any, do they have, how does that connect? Just again, I was just surprised because I've been going to as a personal supporting Fluffy and Floyd's because it's a local vendor and I love the women that work there and and just realizing how many people are now unemployed and where those ladies go and just it's a small business and just one day they were there and the next day they were absolutely gone and so just and now we have an empty building in Southgate. And anyway, just what can we do to help,
One of
keep
those things,
people?
because I go to chamber meetings and I'm also on the EDC board and, it's just monitoring that and trying to find assistance for them, but there's nothing you can do with.
No, I realize it's the city, but it's just, again, it's just like, just EDC have any wisdom or anything going on. So Lisa uncovered here. So I just, yeah.
One of the conversations that they've had is, I think there's some hesitation and apprehension, but what 2008 economic downturn was like, and what can we do to support that? I know the chamber is very involved. I know EDC is very involved in how they can do that, and then even if those is not, organizations, it is difficult. And, having been a previous small business owner, I understand these struggles. It is really, really, really hard to keep those doors open sometimes and and you have to make those hard choices and it's, and hopefully any business that ends up needing to, close, that there's another opportunity for another new business and entrepreneurs to come in and take that space too. So, trying to attract or keep the city vibrant and trying to attract those businesses to come in.
And I would just add, we are, with both Jean and Kelly being more directly responsible for economic development initiatives, we have a much better technical staff connection to what EDC is doing, and that's a positive. But I would also say both the chamber and the EDC in particular are nonprofit organizations. And the EDC in particular is a heavily grant-funded organization, and it's a heavily federally grant-funded organization that is seeing a lot of contraction in terms of their revenues. So, and also I would say, having talked with Michael Cade and David Shafford both recently, it's not just federal funding. There's been a constriction of state resources that have been allocated to economic development as well. And so, it's a challenge as revenues begin to drop off from our sources. What does government do? One of the things that I believe in, having done this or experienced this in 2008 and the 2009 Great Recession, a lot of commerce and activity was generated out of the American Recovery Act. And so there were a lot of public infrastructure construction projects that were able to get good pricing because there was a competitive bidding environment. And they were able to move forward with these infrastructure projects that provide jobs and commerce and revenue and activity where private businesses weren't able to do that during that particular period of time. So to the degree that we can retain a stabilized revenue forecast on our own and have appropriate strategies in place to ensure we're keeping our costs down and continuing to be frugal with our expense side of things, moving forward with our infrastructure projects that we've identified in our capital facilities plan is going to be helpful for the community, for the business community, and for the overall economy. So it's not a be all end all, but it is something that I think is really important. And it is a contributing factor, I think, where you have a community, a city government, a county government in reasonable shape with a continuing capital investment program that is going to keep people working in the community and keep projects moving forward. So it might be small solace for a dire picture, but I think because the city of Tumwater has had good financial planning and fiscal responsibility, I think we're in a really good place to be able to provide some little bit of stabilizing factors as we begin to, work through the next few years of challenges and uncertainty.
Councilman Goddard?
So Troy, yesterday I attended a webinar and they made this argument that if this present fiasco in Washington D.C. go through and that the food stamp program is cut by that certain percentage that they wanted to do, that what that does is that you take it with that money from circulation. In essence, you don't have that money flowing around, and that would cause consumer to pay more when they do groceries or do other stuff. So I know that our sales taxes are okay. So if that scenario were to play out, where we will be?
Which program did you say that was?
So it started out with the food stamp being cut, and then an economic professor laid out where if you take this X number of money away from circulation, that is no longer going to buy groceries and buy other stuff, and then that has to be made for one way or the other, and that would jack up prices. In essence, you create more, you create additional inflation, type of inflation that's currently that we currently have right now. And this time around, because it affects everybody, so there is just not one sector that is going to be saved or not be harmed by what is being proposed. So if that were to happen, how might we fare in Tumwater?
Well, certainly, inflation hurts everybody. So as inflation goes up, and it hurts, those who can least afford it, it hurts them the worst. So I think, hard to say how these scenarios might play out. But certainly, the effects of some of these things going on in Washington, D.C., could make it tough for a lot of people in our area.
Any other questions? Just one thing I'll do personally is make sure that I make bigger contributions to the people than other nonprofits like that to help people who are in need. Any other questions? Anyone else? This one just might be a super easy budget thing meeting even.
People might actually be able to have time for lunch.
I know. All right, if there's no other questions and no additional items, we are adjourned. We will see everybody at our work session on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you.